Hello, and welcome to UN Environment Program's web stream, and thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Inger, and I'll be discussing today the link between biodiversity and resilient food systems with two remarkable people whose work ties in perfectly with the work that we are doing right now on the World Environment Day, because we are focusing on biodiversity and on nature. So first, I'm going to have a chat with J Lymbery, and then with chef and young UN champion of the earth for Asia and Pacific, Louise Mabulo. And they will both join us. Now, Louise will demonstrate how to make the perfect cup of hot chocolate. But first, let me bring in Philip. Hello, Philip.
Hi, Inge.
Hi,
great to meet you.
I'm really glad you joined us. Thank you so much. And for those of you that don't know Philip J Lymbery is global CEO of the international farm animal welfare organization called Compassion in World Farming. He is also an award-winning author, best known for his eye-opening books, Farmageddon and Dead Zone, Where Wild Things Were. For 25 years, Philip has worked extensively on animal welfare issues, wildlife, and the environment, and he regularly speaks about the global effects of industrial farming and the need for a more balanced, regenerative food system. So it's a great pleasure to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for being on the program. And so, Philip, in a few minutes, young farmer Louise Mabulo will be joining us. And one of the things I wanted to hear from you is your thoughts about the role of young people in farming, in sustainable and restorative agriculture. How do we engage that next generation in these ideas that you have been such a great promoter of?
Well, young people very much are the future of farming, and the future of food is regenerative farming, farming in a way that produces food in harmony with nature. So not using lots of chemical pesticides and fertilizers, instead using a rich mix of crop plants and farmed animals that move in rotation around the farm. And in this way, we can create great food in a way that encourages a thriving environment, a thriving natural world.
So when you do your work and when you set about it, how have you found the response of communities and of the people with whom you engage?
I'm finding that more and more people, young people, people of all ages, are now getting more receptive to the idea of regenerative agriculture, regenerative farming. I've seen it around the world, Inga. I've seen that, in South Africa, for example, an up-and-coming farmer had his cattle being followed by chickens that were picking bugs out of the cow pats. In the Americas, I've seen farmers that are keeping their soils covered up year-round using a wide mix of different cover crops that are then grazed by a range of different farmed animals. And in my country, in Great Britain, I've seen cattle and pigs grazing together in herb-rich pastures. And what this does is it not only produces great food, but a thriving environment, a countryside that is actually, popping with great biodiversity, with wild animals, wild plants. And it's very much, in my view, the way to go.
Absolutely. Nature positive farming is what we like, and it produces healthy food and healthy animals. How do I know that? How can I select these kind of products in the store?
Well, my advice to people is to look out for pasture-fed, free-range or organic. At the moment, there isn't, a renowned regenerative label, but those pasture-fed, free-range, organic type terms do mean that animals will have been given a more compassionate lifestyle, that the plants will have been treated better without lots of chemicals. So that's what I would go for, Inga.
So now this show is actually about also learning to do the very, very best hot chocolate that we could possibly imagine. Can you tell us a little bit about how cocoa is farmed, cacao, how it's farmed, and how it ends up on our tables as hot chocolate? Can you tell us the background here?
Well, cacao is pure chocolate. It's formed from the bean of the Theobora tree, cacao tree, and it's known in South America as the food of the gods. And what I know as an animal welfare environmentalist is that with animals, you have to treat them right. They need to be treated compassionately, humanely, which means looking after them in harmony with the land. And plants are no different. To produce the very best cacao, it needs to be regeneratively produced without lots of chemicals in natural, rich soils. And so that's why I've been very much looking forward to learning more about how to produce the very best hot chocolate. And I think your next guest is going to tell us a little bit more about that. I'm absolutely delighted and a privilege to introduce award-winning chef, entrepreneur, agricultural advocate, and public speaker, the UN Young Champion of the Earth for Asia and the Pacific, Louise Mabulo.
Thank you so much, Philip.
And Louise, we are so pleased that you are joining us today, and it's great to see you again. Before we see you teaching us how to make hot chocolate, I believe you have a short video that you'd like to share with us about how you harvested some of the fresh ingredients that we're now going to see you use in this recipe. And let me also take this moment to thank Philip for sharing your insights and hope for more sustainable and restorative agricultural practices. And for those of you watching at home, we will be sharing the links both of Philip's and Louise's websites and social media channels. And we'll also be sharing Louise's superb hot chocolate recipe at the end. So please stay tuned. But for now, let's roll the video.
Hi, I'm here at the Cacao Project Farms today, where I'll be harvesting some fresh ingredients to make all of us some hot chocolate today. And I'll also kind of be visualizing the process of how we bring food from farm to table. Here we practice agroforestry techniques and teach on sustainable farming, enabling farmers to give back to nature more than we take from it. The world we live in has such a fragile ecosystem and food production chain, with many farmers vulnerable and beholden to climate-related issues. We established many farms like these across the town to build resilient and climate-smart livelihoods for the farmers here. Speaking of which, I think I need to harvest some cacao for our rich hot chocolate recipe today.
This is looking amazing. Now tell us what we do next, Louise.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Ingrid. It's an honor to be cooking hot chocolate today for you. So today, we're going to start with the recipe. I've made here some, this is called tablea de cacao, which is a tablet of chocolate that's unrefined. It's made here locally, and it's a traditional way of making chocolate here in my country. So we'll need about about a half a cup worth of this chocolate tablets. And I have here some coconut milk that I've already just harvested from the trees, as you saw in the video. And about a cup of water. Now this recipe is very sentimental to me because my grandmother used to make it quite a lot. And I kind of put in my own twist and kind of my spin to it by adding chilies. So my region is so well known for chilies. And I decided that if I wanted that extra kick in our recipe, we would love to have a few chilies to add that flavor. Now, for sweetening, you can choose your own sweetener or whatever you have available, but I have here coconut sugar to emphasize that flavor of coconut that we have available here. So about probably 2 or 3 tablespoons of coconut sugar. And we'll just heat this up and bring it to a boil.
Wow, this looks amazing. And so about this delicious hot chocolate you're about to make, what, other than making us feel really good and wonderful, what are the health benefits? Are there any health benefits other than just, I feel really good when I have your hot chocolate, I'm sure. What are the health benefits? Do you know?
Well, definitely, pure 100% hot chocolate is actually very healthy. People don't usually know this. They think it's a sinful, but it's good for your cardiovascular system. It's great for relieving stress and anxiety. It's high in fiber, so it's very good for digestion.
That's super interesting. As we think about the food that we eat, oftentimes we don't understand what it does to our bodies. So having that information is obviously important. Another thing that we've been talking a lot about is understanding the links between this current pandemic and nature, because we have been encroaching a lot into nature and destroying nature and fragmenting nature. And so thinking about how we can do restorative agriculture, agriculture that is nature positive and also body positive to us and makes us feel good. I think this is precisely what we need to think about. And I'm sure that your hot chocolate will bring us just there.
I hope it does.
I'm sure it will. Now, the way you farm cacao, is that different from how other farms do it? Or is this the standard way that cacao is farmed? We saw you out there on the farm picking the pods.
Well, with our cacao farming, our methods of farming cacao is we promote as much as possible natural or organic farming. We try to make sure that there's no waste and it kind of is a circular economy approach in agriculture. So everything that we do on the farms, we make sure that everything that stays there. So we try to avoid introducing chemicals in our pesticides and fertilizers. What we do with our fertilizers is we make our own using vermicompost or manure or food waste from the markets. And with our pesticides, instead of using chemical insecticides, we use these chilies that we harvest and we have so much of, and we turn them into a natural insecticide by mixing them with oil and a little bit of salt or garlic. And that kind of repels insects naturally. That way we use insecticides that come from our farms. And it also keeps the water streams that are nearby our farms clean as possible. And our trees are intercropped in existing landscapes or barren lands or coconut plantations. So we try to maximize the land that we have and kind of make the most of the land that we're given and work together with nature so that nature provides us with our ingredients and our produce. And we take care of nature through farming.
Well, this is amazing and very, very impressive. And of course, no surprise that you are young champions of the earth, because certainly that's what we hope. We need to feed the world. We have about 800 million people who go to bed hungry every night. And so we need to have enough food and we need to stop food waste, obviously. But we also need to ensure that we do so when we farm, that it is regenerative and not by cutting down the trees, but by working with the trees and working with the established plantations. How's our hot chocolate doing?
Well, our hot chocolate is doing well. Now it's been brought to a boil. And what we do with these hot chocolates is we boil them for 30 minutes because they're raw chocolate product. So what I've done, Inger, because I know that we don't have as much time, is that I've already pre-made some ahead of time, that this has been boiling for 30 minutes.
Wow.
And it was, as you can see, it's very thick and glistening. And let's heat this up. And here we have a glass. What I'll be doing is pouring it here into our hot chocolate mug. And since we're using coconuts, I'm topping it up with whipped coconut cream. So this is basically pure coconut fat that's been whipped up ahead of time. And when you chill it, it's a lot like an ice cream. And it's very rich and delicious and creamy. And we'll top this on top.
Oh my goodness.
Add a little bit more. So you have that kind of foam. It's pouring over just a little bit. And I will top it with some chilies.
Ooh.
Just to emphasize the fact that you have chilies. And this is stevia that we grew here. Just move it a little bit.
This looks exquisite. Well, thank you. I wish I could drink it.
I really wish you could. In fact, I'll make sure to send you some chocolate from our next harvest.
That would be lovely. I'll share it with everyone in the office. Well, look, this is so interesting. You've been such an inspiration to us at the United Nations Environment Program and to the world. So I wondered, how do you think we can engage more young people in sustainable farming? Because clearly you are a brilliant example of just that. What do we need to do to attract young people into this market of farming?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that we could do to get more young people into farming and sustainable agriculture. One of them is age. So young people here in the Philippines, there are stigmas and cultural stigmas about age in agriculture. So young people here are taught that they have nothing to contribute because they should listen to their elders. Now, nothing's wrong with that, but young people should kind of have that aspect that they know something. They can bring in that motivation, that knowledge that they learn about agriculture and sustainability and their passion into the field of agriculture. Another thing is the stigma of culture. Now, in many countries like mine across Asia, there is a stigma towards agriculture where it's often associated to poverty. And if we can remove that stigma and show young people that farming can be fashionable, farming can be a way of self-expression, an art form with food, well, then I think more young people will be interested. But we cannot keep bringing in this kind of idea that farming is fashionable and sustainable unless we change the existing farming practices that are going on worldwide.
Well, it's so true, and also true in the kind of food choices that we make, because now you've made something for us that's totally organic, that's good for our bodies, that's good for our minds, I'm sure, and that's good for nature. So the more information we have out about that, of course, the better it is, because we will select the right products from the supermarket shelves, those that are good for nature. You have something next to the glass that is standing there. What is? Can you tell me about that on the tray?
Here I've served it alongside some cookies. So this is cacao cookies. Instead of chocolate chips, I use cacao nibs, and it's kind of like a nut. And if I just get this and crumble it open, you can see it. It's just like chocolate chips, but it's so much healthier. And here I have a chocolate tart, which I've made from wild avocados, which were growing on one of the farms. One of the farmers found it, and he decided to pick some. And I made some this morning since I knew we had this live stream today. Mm-hmm. And it's topped with wild berries, coconut chips, and everything on this tray and on this table right now is naturally farmed and comes from the farms from around the town, which we've reforested with cacao trees.
Oh, this is amazing. This is amazing. And really, as we think about the future, and as we think about the future of food, what we really want is, of course, to make sure that nobody goes to bed hungry. To make sure that we stop food waste, because if food waste were a country, it would be the fifth largest emitter of CO2. So we don't want that. We want efficient use of food and of water. But we also want our food to be healthy, and as you have explained, for it to be regenerative. And what you have shown us today is clearly an example of that. And you've also shown us an example of a chef who went into farming, which I'm really interested in. How did you make that transition from learning and teaching and cooking with food to think, actually, I'm going to grow it?
Well, when I was starting out in my culinary career, I kind of realized that there was an issue with supplies of food coming in. A lot of farmers were no longer farming certain ingredients, and a lot of food was becoming sold out. And I kind of realized that because not many people were farming food anymore, no one wanted to create food. In fact, the average age of farmers here in the Philippines is 57 years old. So our farmers are becoming an aging population. And if young people like me didn't kind of actively do something for our farmers or actively farm my own food, then we would have a food security crisis in the next 15 years or so. And I kind of realized that I have a love for food and a love for where those ingredients came from. I live in an agricultural town. And if I, as a young person, did not do something to stand up for our farmers and grow my own food, then I wouldn't have any food to be cooking as a chef. So I started my own farm, and when we were hit by Typhoon Nut-10 in 2016, I kind of realized that farmers are especially vulnerable to the onset of climate change and our yearly typhoon season. And I wanted to do something and play an active role in diversifying their income streams and making these resilient livelihoods. So that's when I kind of transitioned more into farming my own food. And I feel that there's more young people who want to become a chef than a farmer. But I wanted to set that example of being a chef who transitioned into farming and grows her own food sustainably and regeneratively.
Well, I am so impressed with you, and I am sure that everybody who will be watching this show will be similarly not only impressed, but inspired. You are showing the magic of the earth as we know it, that earth that feeds us, it clothes us, it gives us our residences, it gives us the air we breathe, the water we drink. And you're showing that when we farm, when we cook, we can serve not only the sustainability of the earth, but also the health of our bodies and the happiness with good, wholesome food. So to you, Louise Mabulo, can I thank you so very much for this, and thank you for sharing this with us today. We are so very grateful to you for your leadership and your championing of environmental issues. So from me, a deep and warm thank you to you for what you're doing today.
Such an honor as well to be making this for you. And next time I'll send you some.
I'll come and visit you on your farm. How is that?
I would love that and look forward to it.
Yeah, I'd love that. Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much indeed. And happy World Environment Day.